About tonight, I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years, and for the last 3 years of that time, I got to ride the LA Metro rail from the Hollywood and Western station near my house down to the Pershing Square station in downtown LA. And at the time, when I told people that I took the subway to my office, the typical response was, LA has a subway? Our guest tonight and his 30-person creative services group at LA Metro are doing their job to change that perception. From advertising, wayfinding, and environmental graphics, timetables, maps, fare media, customer information, bus and rail fleet design, websites, mobile data, merchandising, Michael Lejeune and his team are responsible for all things visual at the nation's third largest transit agency. And ridership is up in LA. The nearly 80-mile metro rail network sees over 316,000 passengers on an average weekday, while Metro's bus system is now seeing over 1.15 million passengers on an average weekday. And by comparison, the city of Minneapolis only has not quite 400,000 people, so it's on a massive scale. Prior to joining the in-house team at LA Metro, Michael was project director at KBDA, where he managed projects for Acura, Nike, 3Com, UCLA, and Hilton Hotels. But it's his work, the work of he and his team at LA Metro that's getting the eyeballs and recognition of Fast Company, Communication Arts, Print, the AIGA National Archives, as well as millions of citizens every day. Please join me in welcoming Michael Lejeune.
Thank you. This is like the nicest crowd I can tell already that I've ever been able to speak in front of, and it's very vertical too, so I can see everybody. Well, thank you. I'm beyond thrilled to be here. I've had many chances to travel to different places. I'm a native Angelino, so it's nice to get out once in a while and see what's happening elsewhere. I'm really impressed with Minneapolis. I love the Hiawatha Line. I took it in last night, and if you remember that rainstorm, I was in it for 5 blocks with a rollie. I thought the earth was going to end right there. I've never seen anything like that. It was really amazing. But this is my second set of clothes, and they are dry, so wow. Anyway, that would never happen in LA. But anyway, I have so many things to tell you. I'm going to try to keep it under an hour. I'm just going to go boom, 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 because there's lots of great eye candy, and hopefully you'll find yourself in here and some minor insights, since that's the name of the series, and we'll all have a good time. I apologize in advance. A keynote is like candy to me, and I love all the transitions and things, so you're going to see some pretty cheddar stuff. But anyway, what can I do? It's just too good. Let me make sure my little clickers go in there. Maybe not. Hold on here. Let's see. Maybe I'll just do it this way. But do I have to turn this on, do you think? On the side. Oh, there you go. Hold on. Okay. Okay. There you go. So I bring you greetings from LA, which is not like Minnesota, but it's a great town. It's a place in search of a place. And everything you've heard is true. I was at the beach the other day with my friends. That's me in the upper left there. It's hard to see me over Pam's hair, but that's, that's the way she is. Anyway, we were just hanging out talking about transit and the fact that there really is a subway in Los Angeles. Anyway, Pam says hello, and let's get maybe a little more serious now. I want to take you back because at the beginning of the last century, Los Angeles was the same but quite different. Tons of orange groves and blue skies. This is Union Station downtown, remarkably and wonderfully. Union Station looks just like this today. The cars are a little different. But this was sort of the beginning of a golden age in Los Angeles because we had all the trains arriving with all the people from the Midwest who saw what it was like in the winters and said, I've got to be there. And we had one of the greatest transportation systems in the United States, the envy of the United States, in fact, the red car system. And you could start at the top of the San Gabriel Mountains and go all the way to Santa Monica on rail. But see how friendly we are? We're smiling, and there's plenty of room for cars, and there are not that many cars. Like everybody really got along back then in the 10s, 20s, 30s. And it was a great place. in terms of getting around. And we were growing, and the orange blossoms bloomed each year, and it was truly a kind of a paradise. Along came the 50s, and the post-war era really saw a boom happening all over the country, and the spread of cities and the move to suburbia. And who would not want this dream, honestly? This is I think a car ad. But who wouldn't want to be at that party and know that your green convertible was waiting on? Oh, is that the beach that I see just over the edge of that beautiful sandstone railing with the this really was the beginning of the selling of car culture. And car culture was born in LA. Cruising was born in LA. The idea, American graffiti, and the idea that you could cruise up and down the boulevards of the valley. All the car companies eventually located their design headquarters in Los Angeles, and the new still happens in Los Angeles. So this was kind of the beginning of this idea that the car was the must-have. And I think this speaks for itself in terms of the sexuality of the whole notion. This was a Ford Mustang ad, but honestly, the idea that the sun is always shining and you can just throw down the rag top and the girls are waiting for you and it's just, it's time to ride. That's really what was sort of being put out there. And even today, here's an ad for Tesla, which is your nice little $100,000 electric car. It still has that sort of sense of, I'm cruising down the boulevard and I've got my groovy glasses on and I'm not emitting, I love it. And I dropped $100,000, it was great. An endless ribbon of roads, 72 and sunny, zoom, zoom all the time. This is the reality that I, unfortunately, know. This is not a car ad, by the way. This is taken from somewhere. And in fact, I think it even got picked up, that very same photo, I think, got picked up for the blog that the Walker did, which was great. So this is really what it's more like. And this is, interestingly, I think, for me, a lifelong Angelino who used to drive 2 hours a day and will never, ever get that time back. This is really kind of where the Metro story starts and this idea of change really starts. Sadly, it's still like this most days on the freeway, but as we'll see, there are some new things happening. So LA is a great place. It's known around the world. It's got that sort of magical lure, but in fact, we're best known for being #1 in traffic. We have been voted the best, or I actually should say more accurately, the worst traffic in the nation by the Texas Transportation Institute, which sort of publishes the gold standard of mobility and congestion studies each year. And we all sit and wait by that mailbox to see what's going to happen. So we've been voted worst traffic in the nation, not once, not twice. Wait a minute, was it 5 times? 25 times. In a row, by the way. 25 years running, the worst traffic, and I am so proud. Let's take a moment, shall we? But I have big news. I have very big news. That was last year. This year, are you ready? Drum roll. Chicago, worst traffic in the... Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate your listening. We're done. I'm going to look for a new job. No. So I don't know what that means. Chicago's #1. We're #3, to be fair. And I think that Boston? No, I don't know. What does it matter? It's all bad. In any case, back to this reality. When we started 10 years ago or so with the sort of new metro and the idea of change, we really had a different idea in mind. As you said, you rode the subway every day. We have a subway. People didn't know we had a subway, but we do. We have actually a little rail system, and we move 1.5 million people every day not in their cars. So that's got to be doing something, because those people are not on the road with the people that are on the road. And we have the largest van pool system in the country, and we have a really great car matching system. It was really about engaging people and doing battle with those perceptions that you just saw, that idea that I still have got to get that rag top. I got to get out there and zoom up PCH. Meanwhile, PCH is usually closed because there's been a mudslide or they're working on it. So we really set out to ask ourselves, why does it have to be like this? Why can't getting to work feel like that? Like that. Hi, how are you? What if instead of looking for a parking space that probably doesn't exist, that you paid too much for in a really skanky garage somewhere, you are passing through a station like this with beautiful public art and shiny new handrails and brand new trains. We recognize that not everybody can take our system. If they did, it would cease to, the rails would not turn. But we also like to point out to people, hey, you can drive the freeways. Just think about carpooling because life moves a lot faster in the carpool lane. We try to give them ideas that maybe supplant what they know, and that's part of the fun of it. So this is really the essence of the brand challenge for us. Instead of feeling like this, what can we do to help people to feel maybe a little more like this? So how do we do that? We had to start somewhere. When I started at Metro's 10,000 employees, 2,000 buses on the road every day, 200 bus lines, and a lot going on. We had a lot of great service. People just didn't really know about it. And as the team that services the in-house and outside communication needs for Metro, we really needed to kind of jump in somewhere, and we weren't really sure where. I likened it to a river that just sort of flows, and we just had to kind of start and do something. I want to give you a sense of the external picture first. This is kind of where Metro was. First of all, it was not called Metro. It was called MTA, which is short for Metropolitan Transportation Authority. So friendly, isn't it? You will ride us, We had been building this subway that you enjoyed so much, but along the way, the contractor got into some graft trouble, and there was a billion missing. There was some lawsuits that went on for 25 years. We also, unfortunately, hit a methane leak and blew up a shopping center on the way to building that subway. Seth, you remember? So the sort of external trust factor in our public transit system, the authority, could not really have been a lot lower. And then we were also racist. That's an important thing to note. This is a cartoon from the Bus Riders Union, which is a very smart, very vocal, very effective group that basically put forth a defensible and interesting notion, which was that bus service in Los Angeles was racist, was built on the backs of poor people, and it was the rail system which cost so much to build, which was for the white people. I don't want to go there because there is a rainbow on my train every single day of every kind of person I can ever hope to meet. But in any case, they had done a pretty good job. And in fact, Metro was working under what's called a consent decree, which means that we could not make any change to any part of our service without asking a judge in Washington, D.C., who, by the way, had no training in transportation, if that was okay to do that. And then he would take a couple weeks to rule on it, and then he would come back to us. And then the Bus Riders Union would show up at our board meetings and protest, and they would wheel out a woman in a wheelchair who was 87 and said, if you do this, I can't get to my kidney transplant. And we would change our mind, and it would all be back to the same thing. So it was a very, very difficult political environment. It remains so, but this is kind of the external thing that was happening. Now, let's jump inside the building, if you will, to what it was like for us on a day-to-day basis. We worked on the 19th floor behind a fire door, which I'll show you later. It's a very important door to us because it keeps people out of that we don't want to come in. But when you walked in to the graphics department, raise your hand if you work at an in-house group here, just so I can get a sense. All right. If they call you graphics, you need to change that immediately. It took me 1 year to change the name of our department from graphics to Metro Design Studio. 1 year. But I did it. And when we first walked in, there was a sort of a kind of a Formica counter, and on it was this bell. And if you needed graphics work, it didn't matter what kind of graphics work you wanted, you would come in, you'd sort of wander into this place that you'd never been before, and you would ring the bell. And whatever graphics person was available would kind of get up out of their seat, and come over and say, "Can I help you?" And you say, "Yes, I need a brochure on our new fare policy. Here's my floppy disk." And there's a Microsoft Word document on there with the copy, and I have one photo on there too. I think I'm not sure what kind of file it is, but you can probably work on that. And I love the color red. All right. And that person, who by the way is no longer with us, would say, "Come back in a week and I will hand you another floppy disk," and then you take that down to our print shop and get that sucker printed. We got rid of the bell, first of all. That's your first transition. Keep track. There'll be a quiz at the end. So that was the first thing, was we're not graphics and we're not a bell. But stuff was happening and the river was flowing, and this is sort of the kind of stuff that was happening, just to give you a sense of what you got when you rang that bell. You'd get a brochure like this, maybe. You'd get, "Oh, it's getting better on the bus." You'd get this sort of thing, which I'm not sure whether it was an ad or that's a three-panel take. I don't know. You'd get this on the side of the bus. Look at the gel type, everybody, please. It's like a Gleam commercial or something like that, right? I immediately think of brushing when I see that. And then please, he's waving to you, so please say hello to Safety Guy. That's the Metro mascot, because safety is serious business, right? Or you might get this. I know. Avert your eyes, please. And I honestly don't, I really couldn't understand it. Every single representation of Metro was a 3/4 shot of a bus or train. Why the hell does anybody think that's going to sell anybody on anything, In fact, this is a very important, Mobility 21 is a very important, very successful, very influential regional conference, but you wouldn't know that necessarily from this sort of thing. And my absolute favorite, this is an actual ad. "If we're late, you don't pay." Can you imagine how many times Metro had to pay? Our buses are in the same traffic as everybody else. They don't have wings. They don't get up and, jetpack over the rest of it. I just picture some cashier somewhere paying and paying and paying. An endless line of people all the way down Wilshire Boulevard. Anyway, so that was kind of what we were up against. The internet was a club at Metro. There were two people that were trying it out as a club. There was a lot. 10 years is a long time in the age we're living in. So I don't mean to denigrate them. And Joe is still with us and a fantastic guy. So, but this was kind of what we were up against. And any font you wanted, logo, maybe, maybe not. Maybe it'll go there, maybe it'll go there, whatever. Get out, ring the bell, get out. So, such an easy target, I don't know. Anyway, this is the first piece that I worked on. What do you think? Oh, no, wait. I didn't do that. I just wanted to, sorry. This was the first piece that I sort of plucked from the river. We were about to go out to recruit bus operators. By the way, a really important effort at Metro. If you don't have operators for our 2,000 buses, then they don't go anywhere, right? It's a great job, and I mean this very seriously. If you've got a high school degree, you can start at 19, retire at 43, full salary. It is a union position. It is a great job, and there are great people doing it, and the pay ends up being, really quite good. And I can't even talk about the benefits because they're so good. But anyway, please look at the logo, by the way. That's from Met down there in the corner. Corrupted file. Anyway, so this was the first piece, and we were gonna run ads. We were gonna sort of turn this into maybe some outdoor advertising. And here was the directive to me. Everything's great. The client said, everything's fine with this. Can you just change the photo, because we had this woman on the cover last year. We're looking for an Asian next year. We need an Asian. And I'll get you a photo of an Asian bus driver. And so I said to my boss, Matt Raymond, who's our chief communications officer, a fantastic guy, very, very smart. I said, could we take another whack at this? And he said, yes, you can. You have 3 days. The river must flow. That's the mantra at Metro. The river must flow. So we hadn't even begun to tackle the branding situation. We just thought, okay, so this is what we did to the And they just get better, I'm telling you. And here was our first ad instead. Super simple. That's all the time we had. But just sort of, oh, wait, we could have a conversation. We could talk to people, and we could maybe do it with a little bit of a wink. This is my favorite, I have to say. You know, that's what it is. It's a great big steering wheel and driving around Los Angeles. So why not talk to people about that? So this is kind of, oh my goodness, in 3 days' time, without planning, without a forethought, which can sometimes really, sort of freeze you up, Metro's voice was in essence born, and that just kind of got us rolling, pardon the pun. So all of a sudden, I do something in Quark, that's how old it was, then, and 3 days later, it's on a bus bench somewhere, or not quite that, but the file's out the door, and all of a sudden I'm seeing it around Los Angeles, and I thought, wow, this is a really different feeling than what, I'm used to, particularly. This idea of there really is this dialogue happening. And Matt said, we got to keep going with that. We have a problem with graffiti. We have a problem with litter on our system. Let's do something that kind of positions Metro as the good neighbor, because we have a lot of, as you can see already, we have a lot of talking space, and our budgets are much better than they used to be. Let's see what we can do. So we started doing sort of more riffs on that. This was the Clean Up LA campaign. The same sort of thing in stations. But this idea that we're just having this kind of conversation with people and reminding them about their system. I kind of love this one because it's sort of cheeky. So off we go. We're talking. We are quote unquote advertising, but it's sort of more like what can we say? And now we get into the nitty gritty. Here are just a few, certainly not all inclusive, of the many logos of the MTA at that time. There are some that are about service. There are some that are about internal departments, T-Metro. There are some not done by anybody even related to Metro. All of them happening all the time. And in addition, we did in fact have a sort of an official Metro logo, which I think you've seen, the big M. There it is, sort of in the corner. See how well it reproduces at that small, little tiny, the tiniest Metro, like the service name. It's like if Coke was in 2-point type on the can, And this is the way, that was treated. These are all real examples we found of the Metro logo. Oh, I can do it in Word. I don't need the fonts. I don't need a file. I can stretch it. I can color it. I can put it on a patch. It doesn't matter. I can split it up, the whole thing. So, we started in with the branding, and we developed a very simple logo, not the kind of thing that might make it too under consideration necessarily, but the thing that we really needed to start with solidity and constancy and start to rebuild the idea of this dependable, reliable system. And so the logo's only in black, only in white, very simple to read, and ownable. The logo that we had before was not ownable. We got a letter from Washington, D.C.'s system saying, cease and desist. We are selling merchandise with our logo. It looks very much like yours. Here's the first letter from the lawyer, and we realized we really needed to, for a lot of reasons, go to something simple. The M in the circle wasn't necessarily the way we might have gone, but we had 2 weeks to do the logo because that river has got to fly, had to be approved by the board. And our research did tell us that 83% of those people surveyed recognized the M in the logo as Metro, which was the place that we were going to. So what we really did is we upped the Metro value, because that's a nice friendly word that means transportation all over the world, including right here in Minnesota. And the great systems of the world are Metros. So we wish to join them because we are going to become a great system of the world. So we did the necessary cutting up and segmenting and figuring out our typefaces and our basic color palette and that sort of thing. But really, the sort of the fun started when we said, now we've got the simple toolkit, which is going to grow, but we're going to now reintroduce ourselves to Los Angeles. We're no longer MTA. We are not the authority. We are going to be Metro. And so we started in with some more of this sort of, you can see this thing happening. This is like quick files, quick conversation. But it really became a kind of a way for us to talk as we were getting our design ducks in order, a simple way to talk. But bright color, that logo clear. This is my favorite. We had a lot of calls from people saying, your outdoor company made a mistake, and you need to get your money back on that one. So we built a kind of a system. The take ones started flowing off the press, and You can see, there is an order to it, and a brightness and a color that's really friendly, but every once in a while we can break our own rules and get into something that's, about events or about particular things happening in LA that's a lot more fun. And then we started getting into really planning our advertising and our messaging and started going out there. This was the first ad that we ever shot, the first photo for an ad that we ever shot. LA is predominantly Hispanic. Lucha Libre is a huge thing. And we somehow found this kind of balance of really celebrating that, having a little fun, and basically saying everybody goes Metro. Everybody can take a ride with us. So we were kind of off and running as this small, at that point, I think 7 or 8 people in-house group that is plucking now almost everything out of that river and redoing it as fast and furiously as we can. Within a year, we were opening a new rail line, the Gold Line, which is my line from South Pasadena and points a little farther north into downtown. So 2.5 years, 20 years of terrible commuting, 2 hours a day, and suddenly I can ride my bike to the train station in South Pasadena, get on the train, get off the train, walk into my office. And I felt like this incredibly karmic, resolution to all those years of gritting my teeth. And, I was not the kind of person that would ever flip anybody off in traffic, but, the idea that finally I'm getting sort of the happiness that I deserve. So we were talking really big, super graphics and taking advantage of our budgets and our space and all that in the biggest way we can. And now, people are hearing a little bit from us. And this is about a year in, and we're feeling great. We're rolling along. It's fantastic. And then Metro goes on strike, which just is a reminder that transit is hard. And we have 10,000 employees, and 9,000 of them are unions. And when one union strikes, everybody strikes in support. And so we went from saying all kinds of really great things to saying this. Oh, wait, I forgot the period. Yeah, there, we were saying that. And not to mention that we had no rail service, almost no bus service. And, that's the hard thing, is that you work to build this dialogue and people are starting to sort of respond to it, and then something that's completely beyond your control and is entirely political and about, contracts, which are important, can completely derail sort of what you're doing. So it's just a reminder that you will always have a challenge in whatever you're doing, and it's most often not anything that you can control, but you just have to kind of keep going. And when we started to talk again, we jumped right back in, and it was as if it hadn't really ever happened. So how do we work? What's the kind of the process of this? This is a slide you probably can't read. It was not made for this purpose, but Metro is 5 different sectors, 14 board members. We have 20 or so divisions now. There's our headquarters, 9,000 employees. We employ sheriffs. We have one of the largest sort of bike path systems in the world. We have this amazing freeway service patrol that stops at the side of a freeway and tows you or jump starts you or puts some gas in your car, anything to keep the cars going. And we really have a lot going on. How did we kind of systematically begin to really communicate as one voice? The first thing that we did, and I just show this slide because chances are if you work at a company, it looks a little like all that stuff on the outside. These were all different functions at Metro that were communicating externally or internally with the public, and they all had their own budgets. And so when Matt came in, he said, the only way I can do this is if I take all these people and they all come back into a group called communications, and we take all those budgets. So our ad budget the year before I started was about $700,000 the whole year. The following year when I started, it was $3.5 million. And it's now somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 or 8 million, depending. Although we are fighting for budgets even today as we speak. They are pulling ad budgets from us because you don't need to advertise, for God's sakes, to get people to change their habits. They'll just do it on their own. Anyway, here's that fire door, super important to us. But when you get inside, this looks like, and believe me, it is Cubicleville at Metro. But there you see, Metro Design Studio, that's what it says on the bad signage, but it says the right thing, 1 year to do that. When you get inside, though, it is a very happy place. And we sort of make the biggest mess we can. We have stuff on every wall. It will not be seen in Dwell or Communication Arts did do a little story, and they were like, we don't need to photograph the studio. We're fine, So everything has a job number. about 2,000, 3,000 jobs a year, depending. I think we recently rolled over the 25,000 job mark in my 10 years, all individual pieces or parts of a larger campaign, and they all get a job number. We have an amazing production manager who keeps it all together. And we're very much about loose and a little bit messy, but we really talk a lot about what we're doing. This was from a retreat that we did where my question was, why are you here in one word? Why have you either come to Metro because we were starting to attract some really fantastic designers and some new thinkers, and the ones that wanted to stay and were up for the challenge were with us still. And so this was about why people are here. We did another exercise where I said, here are 6 questions. To read them, there's sort of higher thinking questions about what we're here to do and what the biggest challenges are. And we all answered those, but what you see is the red, the blue, and the green answers I had previously asked are 3 bosses, the people who vote, the people who approve, the people who say yes to what we're doing or supply the budgets or sort of make it happen and clear the path. And it was very interesting to see how their answers aligned or didn't align with what we were doing. That was a kind of an interesting take. We use a lot of foam core. This was the initial structure of the new website, and about as low tech as you can get, but really easy to move things around and start to see how different pages are going to flow within the architecture. We do a lot of pinups. Words are very important to us, particularly me, as the kind of de facto writer for most of what gets out there. And it is so much about the Sharpie and the collaboration and what can we do, and then we generate comps and do all the kinds of things that everybody does. We just do it a lot, all the time, 25,000 times a decade, it seems like. So a couple quick before and afters, because it's always fun to see whether things actually got better. This is what our timetables used to look like at Metro. And here's our system now. We have a 6-color press in our basement, so that's really nice. And we have a web press, and we do a lot of our own printing. We print these timetables 200,000-300,000 at a time. There's a lot of printing going on. We're very green, I wish to say, and we are very good at recycling. And we have a major environmental program going because it's not just about paper; it's about buses. And we run the largest clean air fleet in the country. We just mothballed our last diesel bus about 6 months ago, and everything is liquefied natural gas, and so we really are doing our part that way. Very clear timing, and everything is about information design. Everything we do has some piece of information. So I'm sort of getting to the fun stuff, but this is the stuff that matters to our 1.5 million riders every day. This is what a map used to look like. This is an important map because when you leave the subway underground and you need to know where you are downtown, this is what was sort of confronting you and how you would connect. It looks more like this now, and it's got a 3-dimensional feeling to it. I want to credit Neil Sadler, our amazing first art director, who did just unflagging great work on information design. And now you can literally see, I'm going to walk a block, I want to go to the Ronald Reagan building, or I'm going to get out of Union Station and go to Elvira Street, or that sort of thing. And we have these at every rail station, and they capture a footprint about a mile or so around that station. There's safety guy. I know you've missed him. And as I said, we take safety very seriously, and that's the way we do it. It's the way we did it. So now our take ones, which are really the core of our kind of printed material, because a new batch goes on a bus every single day. There's something new that has to be communicated or talked about. That's the way our kind of family of brochures looks now. This is signage. This is customer signage, by the way. And I don't think I have to say much about that, but this is telling people how to get to one of our larger transit centers in Los Angeles. We have worked our magic there as well, and it's very clean and very simple. Now, it's not all about those 1.5 million people and being out there. In-house is in-house, and we are a full-service in-house agency. So sometimes it is about how to lift, right? OSHA-approved messages for our people, but there's no reason why that can't have a very nice, tidy, look and a little bit of snap to it as well. We do a lot of communicating to our own employees. This is one of my favorites, encouraging and all of our models in our advertising are Metro employees. We save a ton of money, but we don't talk about that as much. It's really about building this camaraderie, and we have thick files of people who want to be in our ads and want their children in our ads and their girlfriends or boyfriends or fiancés in our ads. And this is one of our really humorous and very sort of game actual bus drivers who agreed to this. I don't think they told him about the Shrek ears when they took the photo, but he loved it and wanted his own signed poster by the designer. We even do employee badges, and we do them for dogs as well, our four-footed colleagues. This is one of our sniffer dogs, and we know them all, and they're all great animals, and that's his actual name. And, you know, the photo shoots can get weird, but they're very, you know, they're just sort of a chance to get out, and we're very much about becoming a voice for what's going on in LA as well as how you can get there. It's kind of always this go Metro to kind of equation. Not only, you know, is it a better ride, and we can give you all the reasons for that, but there, you know, we are kind of a tour guide for Los Angeles, which as a native I really love, because I really saw in hindsight that was missing in my hometown. So to that point, one of our other sort of mantras is we want to be one of a kind. We want to be, you know, one of a kind, just like Los Angeles. It's a completely unique place, as is every city, and we are the agency, the transit system of the city, and we want to constantly have it feel like that. This is what our buses used to look like: white, like every pickup truck, delivery van, human trafficking van, you know, whatever. That was, you know, they were all white. And Neil was the kind of guy that would go out into the different yards and really learn about things and meet the people that, you know, were sort of doing these weird union jobs. And he discovered that we had a paint shop. Of course we have a paint shop, because if you drive a bus all day, it's going to get into a fender bender eventually. And, you know, it has to come in for some new paint. And here comes the geeky part, at a bus's midlife, which is halfway through its career with us, it comes in and gets completely rebuilt and repainted and all this stuff. So Neil discovered this paint shop, and he said, you know, I'm going to check out what it might cost to actually redesign our buses and make them a little bit brighter, and this is what comes out of it. The most juicy, delicious, candy bright buses that you've ever seen. Here's one going down PCH. In addition, we striated the levels of service. We branded the Metro Local service, which is the sort of hop and stop in your neighborhood. Metro Rapid is the, you know, sort of express service, stops every mile, goes faster, 25% faster than our regular bus service. And the way we sold this to the board, because each paint job cost $77 more than when they were painted white. But we said, but look, they're so much more visible. And we worked with 3M, and we got this super reflective tape for the livery labeling. And so when headlights, you know, at an intersection rake across the bus, it pops right out at you and says Metro and Metro Local and Metro Rapid. And so it actually is a safer situation. The silver on the top and bottom, also not an accident. The silver on top keeps the buses cooler, reflects the sunlight in a very warm climate, and sort of hides all that, you know, air conditioning machinery on the top. And it sort of has that sleek feel, we think, you know. And Matchbox apparently felt so as well. We are the only transit system in the country to have our own Matchbox series of buses, which means my 8-year-old now really understands what it is that I do. So again, this idea of, you know, really fun photography, you know, messaging that can be, you know, very digestible and readable. This is one. I mean, where else can you write a headline like that? You know, it's just so much fun. And as I said, we're a tour guide too. So this is a page from our calendar. You know, it's about going out in the city. We do this series of posters that are actually created by local artists. They can submit any design in any medium that they want for any neighborhood that they want to us. And then we select and do a balance each year. We do about 7 or so of these each year. Some of the artists, like Bob Zoll, who's the middle one with the on the bottom with the type, are rather well known and have done a lot of New Yorker covers, things like that. And some of them, it's their very first piece of art they ever created or quote unquote sold. And it reminds people about their own neighborhoods and the fact that we're kind of all over LA. When we open a new rapid line, it's very geo-targeted, and we sort of celebrate the idea that, you know, here comes Metro into your neighborhood, which really helps to, you know, get people on board. The newer stations that we're building have the very cleanest, most kind of simple signage. We've boiled it down to the least amount of information we can, but at the same time, we're celebrating, through public art and sculpture, and this is, kind of a California poppy representation. There are lots and lots of, we look for every possible surface for our public art program, which is an amazing program, also part of the Creative Services Group. And so these are these porcelain panels at the new Orange Line, which is the Valley's rubber rail, meaning a bus that thinks it's a train in essence and operates at dedicated stations on a dedicated roadway. And we are truly out in the community, pardon the pun. This is the Gay Pride Parade in West Hollywood, and every year we have a big shiny Metro bus, and our own employees carry the banner, which the Metro Design Studio has designed for them 10 years running. So that's really nice. I want to show you a couple of our early commercials because we had a little extra money, and if you work in-house, you know that you got to spend all that money before the budget year turns, or you're never going to see it again. It'll just disappear. So this was the first one that we did. This is a spot, we did 5 days of shooting and a total of about $100,000. No trailers, no catering. It was me and a film crew and this guy who you'll see on a bus for 5 days driving all over LA. And here's what we came up with.
Everybody, go Metro. Remember this, go Metro. I need you guys to leave your car here and then go hop on the bus. You, man, go Metro. And quit smoking, it's not good for you. Hey, bus driver, go Metro. I guess they're already going Metro, or else I wouldn't have to tell them.
So that was kind of the shoestring commercial, but it's Hollywood, folks. So then when that same group, the producer and director of those spots came back, they had another idea for us. And Matt said, I really want you to work with these guys again. They've got this great idea. And I said, well, tell me what it is. And he said, well, there's this actor who I won't name, but you might recognize him. And he and the producing partners are trying to sell this movie to Paramount. And it's based on a character called Squeegee Low, who was born in poverty but learned to dance and became the world's best dancer. And so now Squeegee Low is taking dancing to the world. And oh, by the way, this actor who is the nicest guy in the universe, but he also happens to be 6'5" and black and very, very, very muscular, like Arnold Schwarzenegger sort of muscular. So work that all into the Go Metro voice, and we'll be good. And we did.
Traffic, every day. Sig alerts, men at work's backside hurts. Traffic, money down the drain. Bitter, baby. Stop, go, stop. Vessels in my mind go pop. Metro sweet. From here till infinity. The answer? Metro. Metro. Metro.
How weird is that? I'll tell you how weird it is. It's so weird that Matt never had the guts to show it to our CEO. But we did run it. And if the CEO had wanted to look on the website, he could have found it, but So I want to tell a couple quick stories, maybe slightly more in depth. I'm watching my time tick away here, but if you'll indulge me, I want to try to get through it all. When you're in-house, you really need to kind of try to figure out who needs what and how you can raise all of the level of design. And you have to win clients as well as being the muscle that says you have to do it this way, because at a place as big and diverse and sort of filled with ambitious people with their own little pockets of money, as Metro is and many companies are like this, sometimes it's a stick and sometimes it's a carrot. So one day about 2 years into my time, I got a call from a woman who is in charge of one of the most important documents we publish every 5 years or so. It's called the Long Range Transportation Plan. It's a requirement for any public agency to publish something that says, here's how we're going to spend the money. Here are the projects that we're going to do. It's kind of like an annual report, cum vision statement with a lot of legalese and 100 pages of tables in the back. But it is, in essence, the statement that says, here's what we're going to do. And she called me up and she says, here's what I want to ask you. This is what it looks like. We had this outside design firm work on it. everybody wants their own vendor. This is the thing you will find, because I can control them and I don't have to ask your permission, and I can do whatever I want. So this is what it looked like. And it was a fairly nice document. Here's a page inside. But it kind of lacked a story and any kind of intrigue or a way to get into it. And it certainly wasn't the kind of thing you would flip through. In fact, they had 6,000 left over after they published it that last time in boxes, which we recycled dutifully and are now in a landfill somewhere. But it should have been something that really captured people's imagination, because it went to every elected official, every university, every public agency, and it really should have been what we're going to do. So she said, here's what I want to know. Should it be 3 columns of type next time we do this update, or 2? And I said, I'm sorry. I like the 3, she said, but I'm just wondering, because we have to do an update, a kind of a refresh. Maybe it would be better if we went to 2 columns for the next one. And I said, wait. Let's take a step back. Tell me about this document. I spent an hour with her, basically interviewing her and asking questions about it. And at the end, I realized this is the big McGill as far as the communications piece for this agency. It's great to do the advertising, this and that, but as far as the vision piece, this is it. And I want us to get our hands on this piece. So I said, how about you keep your design firm, and they don't have to start for another 3 months or so, but could we take a crack at it? Could we give you a presentation? Could we storyboard this? Could we give you some options? And she said yes, and she thought she was never going to hear from me again. And in fact, we did do quite a dog and pony show, and we showed 3 complete ways to do it. And the next time this was published, which was about 6 or 8 months hence, it became something like this, which was about first-person voice and who are we actually serving and what might the next generation feel. It's the kind of thing that you can turn the page and see yourself literally riding over traffic. We captured the sort of idea of quality of life and that sort of thing. And the thing that's so great about a place like Metro, I have to say, is we actually can say we're creating a better world and mean it, and kind of get away with it without too much tongue in our cheek. We really do believe in this kind of thing. So that's one story. Here's another like unto that, except this person was more, a couple of years had passed, and we were now starting to be seen as fairly effective. And so this fellow Rafi came to me. He's our head of governmental relations, meaning that he is a lobbyist, and his beat is the federal government. So he goes hat in hand to Washington many times a year, along with people from Minneapolis and New York and every other city in the country, saying, please, from the incredibly shrinking pot of money, and boy, is it shrinking fast right now, for transportation, could we have some? We are worthy. He said, this is our sort of rundown piece. And I said, well, what is this? He said, well, there is a story here, and the story is that Los Angeles, one of the most populous regions in the country, we are 10 million people in LA County alone. We have the 3rd largest agency. We are not getting our fair share of federal dollars. We have the largest port system in the world. If you want an iPod in Minneapolis, it starts off the boat, onto a train in Los Angeles, and has to fight the traffic with everybody else to get to you eventually. And so goods movement and freight corridors and air pollution, all of this stuff is all wrapped in, and we're just not getting our share. And so we gave this, unbelievably, but this is about talent and passion and dedication. I gave this table to a great intern named Cindy, an Arts Center intern, and said, this is the story. We're not getting our fair share. We need 1 page that says that. And this is what she did instead. There you see Los Angeles, little tiny dots over there. That's 12 million people. That's our relative size. $9.5 million that year in federal money. Let's take Dallas, 6.3 million people, $86 million in federal funding. New York, you would expect $612 million in federal funding, but wait a minute, what about Salt Lake City? 1.1 million people, $180 million in federal funding. When Antonio Villaraigosa had less than 5 minutes with President Obama on the tarmac last year on his annual trip to Washington, and he needed to hand him one thing. That's the piece of paper that he handed to Obama as he got on the plane. So what can design do? How can you communicate all kinds of ideas? This is, I think, a pretty good example. You would think it might be boring. My feeling is nothing is boring if you put your energy and your heart into it. And in fact, metro and transportation is so not boring to us. This is a sign that I think is boring. This was the sign that basically is on every system that says you can't do this, you can't do that. May I? I know I'm running long, but really, can I just show you, first of all, my favorite here on the middle right. $10 if you can tell me what that person is doing. I'll answer quick because I don't have any money. They are playing a trumpet. What I have never seen anybody on the metro system play. And I mean, they're really playing that trumpet, right? No chewing gum. They look like freight cars. So that was that, and this is what we created instead. We hired an illustrator out of San Francisco who is incredibly skilled at distilling and distilling and distilling. And back to that idea of custom for LA, only in LA. We started doing this set of icons, and he drew these. This was the first application of this. And now the guy looks like he's rowdy, right? Now now there's a radio, which is really what we mean by loud and boisterous behavior in about 99% of the situations. So Icon Guy, which is what we called him because I didn't even know his name. Neil had found him, and he just became Icon Guy. He did this, and then we said, well, wait, so what if we color these icons and bring them a little bit more to life? And what if we build an entire library of these icons, and they become about fare collection, and they become about our different levels of service and that sort of thing. And so what started as very, very necessary safety elements and safety messaging eventually found its way onto a shirt that we sell for $20 on the website. So, that's sort of what you can do. So boring, I would say, in fact, quite the opposite. And I want to share one campaign that I particularly love. We sat one day, Matt and I, and there was a lot going on politically. We were getting ready to sort of test the waters a little bit about securing our own funding and sort of steering our own ship. And our awareness levels were much higher. Ridership was double the national average in terms of discretionary ridership, very important. And he said, right now, the key thing that we need to do is we need to position Metro as the solution to traffic, the solution to mobility, the solution to what ails Los Angeles. Okay, so you can't knock the driver, you know what I mean? When you think about what's your competition, you can't say you suck because you drive, because it's not friendly, right? And too many people drive, they'd burn the building down. What you have to do is find the things that are sort of pain points that go along with driving. And this was just such a simple distillation of things that every driver knows. That's the icon that every car has on the dashboard, right? Who's the villain? Gas is the villain. We're the hero. Oh, so sad. Less of you alone in the car, more of Metro. And you know what happens when you put it on a little kid's t-shirt. So we did this as our sort of holiday iteration of this campaign. And then Maya Emsner, who is my boss and our head of creative services, but who really understands this sort of seed the clouds idea, she took a bunch of these t-shirts and started sending them out to kind of tastemakers and people around town and people at art museums and architects and writers and this sort of thing. And all of a sudden, they're wearing them one day at Intelligentsia, which is like the coolest, baristas. In fact, voted the best baristas in Los Angeles. And they were, not paid to do this. This was really, they wore them one day, all the baristas there. So we are, we sort of take very simple ideas, but we also love ones and zeros, and we are trying, like the Titanic, to turn and become very responsive to the technology and to the idea that everybody wants Metro right here. This is where it's going to be over the next decade. It's not going to be about picking up a timetable because I'm 23 and I don't want paper anymore. In fact, it's my right as an American not to have to hold anything but my beautiful white, exquisite sexual device called an iPhone. And I want it all right there because everything else is right there, and that's what I use. So this was a little device that we did. I don't think it got to you guys, but we closed a portion of the 405 freeway last year because we are adding carpool lanes to the 405 freeway. The 405 freeway in this section that we closed is the most bottlenecked single point in the United States, which is a big contributor to those many, many ribbons that we are so proud to have each year. And so at a press conference leading up to that, one of our board members dubbed it Carmageddon, which I objected to at first because I thought, my God, we're just playing into the hands of the drivers. Like, I can't even function without my car, and it's going to be, people are going to die at the side of the road if we close the 405 for 48 hours. But in fact, it took off like wildfire in a way that we could never have seen. And our press group ran with it, and they had people recording. Tom Hanks made a PSA, and the guy from Mad Men made a PSA because he doesn't have a car and he lives in LA, Vincent And so we actually said, okay, if it's going to be Carmageddon, let's do a little countdown. Let's count right down to the minute when all hell breaks loose and the 405 closes. So we built this little widget for our site, picked up by the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, people from Europe calling and saying, tell us about this closure and this countdown. Something that we were putting on our own site became a widget that anybody could use, and all of a sudden, it's populating these different sites, and we get this feeling of doom and gloom. So along the same line, we're experimenting with QR codes, but we want to do it in a kind of a metro way. So these are a couple of comps that I begged from Tiffany as I was literally walking out the door last week. The idea that you could scan a code and sort of emerge in the 21st century and learn on your very own phone what's going on. We do hundreds, sometimes 1,000 or so community meetings a year, because every time you make any change, build something, close a street for a moment, decide on this station versus this station, there is a community meeting, and they are the lifeblood of fairness and equity, really, for us, and they're very important, and so and there's lots of different contacts, and we're on Facebook and Twitter. So what if you could just scan that QR code and boom, up it comes on your phone. Oh, I can see a map. I can dial the number. I can send an email. I don't even have to think about it. We love that idea, and we're going to start doing that soon. And then in the same way, we just bought Union Station, which is really, really nice, and we're very excited about it because now we can kind of preserve that beautiful setting that you saw, but turn it into the high-speed rail hub and the inter-regional rail hub and metro rail hub and all this for LA. So what if you could scan the code and literally see the visual of what's going to happen? We're trying things like that as well. Sorry. I'm not quite ready. This is another piece. I really love this idea because, as I talked about, people want it right here. They want to hold on to it. They want control. I've been using the phrase for a year or two or three about we need to hand over the keys. We need to let people who believe, generally they're under 30, who will be evangelists for us and the way of life that we think LA can have, let's give them a chance and let them talk about why they take Metro and that sort of thing. So last year we did our first video flicks contest, and anybody could make a video, 2 minutes or so, about why they love Metro. And we got some great submissions, but because it is LA, this was the winning one, and pull out your hankies.
Say it, let her know she's the only one. Years come and go, you'll never know. Don't wait, run and don't look back this time. Chase it while it's still alive. Time is never on your side, so love her like she's home tonight. When you dance, when you kiss, say it, say it. Believe that love will show you the way. Years come and go, regrets will not wasted. You'll never know. Don't wait.
So if you have people that want to tell that story for you, I say get the hell out of the way and let them tell it. Not every one of the entries had that kind of polish. We actually have hired that woman now who was the writer, Faye, and the actress in that, and she's now going to make little movies for Metro. But what I love is it captured everything. It captured the ideal of taking a trip on Metro, which isn't that you're sitting next to a homeless person who smells and is 400 pounds, like the guy that I often end up to. That's the reality of transit, and that's reality. But what about whether you might fall in love instead? And it was all about the phone and So blah, blah, blah. But does it work? That's really the question, because otherwise we're spending a lot of money to make pretty things, and there's much too much important work to be done in moving the needle. So here we are very, very into surveys. We have our own research department, and every year we do a general telephone survey, we do onboard surveys, we do secret shopping surveys. We really, really get out there to try to determine what's hitting, what lines are good, what lines are not, where do people see our information, et cetera, et cetera. And here's some of the things that we have learned over the years. When people see our ads, the favorables, that is their support for Metro in essence, do you think that, this is a presidential election year, you know what favorables are, right? Rise from 43 to 61, which for transit is pretty good because most people don't even think about it. So when people see our ads, the chance that they'll go Metro jumps 24%. So that's a good thing. In 18 months since we launched the brand and really started spending some of that $3.5 million and got out there, discretionary ridership, which is the holy grail, that is, generally speaking, you and me, people who have a choice and choose to ride transit, that rose from 22 to 30%. That is a seismic shift in a place like Los Angeles, toughest market in the country. The national average for the rise in discretionary ridership was more like 3% a year, 4%. So we were well over double that. And now comes the happy middle of our story and the sort of almost big finish, which is now it's time to test our brand in a really big way. Here's this sort of conditions on the ground kind of thing. The state legislature under the governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, was trying to figure out how to stem the bleeding, and so they were taking through legislative moves that were technically legal, but not in the spirit of the voters. They were taking money that was meant for many important transportation programs all up and down the state, and it's a big state with San Francisco, San Diego, Los Angeles, major metro areas, taking that to balance the budget. So we had that kind of a situation. And as I showed you, there are a lot of people walking into congressional offices in Washington making good cases for why that small pie needs to be divvied up to a lot of different urban areas around the country. So we decided, okay, we are going to use the 2008 election, a very important election, a very, very, very high turnout election with many younger voters, first-time voters, the exact kind of people that we think will support the idea of growing the transportation system in Los Angeles. We're going to use that. So we were able to put a measure on the ballot called Measure R. We did this information piece. We did a little bit of that. That was around the time that the Opposites campaign was going on. We were kind of seeding the clouds with the idea that Metro is really the solution. And then when it came time, we made sure that we were the agency providing the voter information about Measure R. So we did this booklet and printed 10 million copies, mailed them to every single registered voter. This booklet was vetted by 12 lawyers. Every single photo. Why do you put that photo in? That traffic looks like it's moving a little too fast. Are you sure that's accurate? I kid you not. You couldn't use the word vote, support, good, anything like that. It had to be completely information. But we made sure that every single voter in LA County got one and that the Metro logo was on the front. And I argued for an hour with one of the lawyers about why there needed to be a Metro logo. Why would you ask someone to vote for something if you don't know who they're going to give their sales tax increase to? The question was, would you spend another half-cent every time you buy anything in LA County if that money goes directly through Metro to transportation programs only in LA County? It's a very high bar. It's not a 50% approval, 50% yes situation for measures like this. It's a 2/3 majority of voters. But we were really counting on that high turnout, lots and lots of polling, lots of late night meetings to figure out exactly what that was going to say, and here's what happened. MTA sales. I hate that they say MTA, by the way, but transit is hard. 67.93%. Again, if you missed that, 67 said yes. Did you see that? We needed 67% of voters to say yes, and 67.93 said yes. So what does that mean in practical terms? Well, first of all, the conversation isn't over. I want to read you quickly from a very important follow-up kind of study on how did that happen that was done for the American Chambers of Commerce by a big think tank in Washington, D.C. They call it a Hail Mary pass, an enormous accomplishment, miraculous that this passed. On the other side, because there's always another side, blah, 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 the best argument against the subway to the VA is there will be another screwing of poor people. So this is the constant black and white of what's going on with the dialogue, with the idea about public transportation. A little something called healthcare reminds me of this. There's always this, you're never quite over that last hump. But regardless of what people are saying, whether it is in fact a screwing of poor people, which I do not believe, or whether it is in fact an enormous accomplishment, which I do, what it means for us is we are literally rolling in the dough. And it's my wife, by the way. And all the bills close to her were steam cleaned, which if you're ever shooting with money, you got to do that because it's filthy, rotten stuff. What does that really mean? $40 billion over the next 30 years. And don't tell anybody, but we're right now thinking about putting another ballot measure on that will extend that 30 years, maybe 60 years, maybe forever, because we feel like we have the support. And what does it mean? It means that it's time to get moving and building. So in addition to getting people on the trains and buses every day now, we now have to come up with a whole new vocabulary and a new way to talk about the many, many transportation programs and the 5 new rail lines and the new busways and all this. So we went to a guy named Paul Rogers, who's a fantastic illustrator, Art Center professor, and a very, very skilled draftsman. And we said, we need an illustration for each one of these, and we're going to turn that into a system and put it all under the rubric of in the works, because that's what we're doing. We are going to be the largest public works project in LA County since the Great Depression. We are going to build pretty much everywhere in the county. We're going to make big messes. And if we do not take the public along with us and remind them that the Foothill Gold Line extension is going to go right past this freeway in Pasadena, or let's talk about meeting at the corner of Future and Rail and what that really is going to mean for the county, then we're not going to pull them along with us. Community meeting notices, the required legal reports every quarter, and the very simple messages about more rail, which was the #1 thing that people wanted in LA County. So we use every space we can. This is the site of a parking structure that we built. And you can start to see how the system builds, and we're reminding people in every way we can that Metro is coming. And again, because it's not just about static, it's about engaging and moving. We took these parts, and with 3 days to go before a press conference that the mayor called us and said, I want something that moves, that I can play before I announce the next project groundbreaking. We took all these Paul Rogers and made a little something. Kind of exciting, right? You guys should move to LA, but don't come for 20 years because we're not ready. But we'll be ready for you. Anyway, we are a $4 billion a year agency. We have a great big budget. We try not to talk about it with other transit agencies because they start crying, and it's understandable. But that piece you just saw was done with static illustrations and an intern from Art Center working in GarageBand in 3 days' time. So there is not a limit to creativity and what you can do with it, if you understand what your story is, what the through line is, and start to build around that. I want to say one more thing, and that's a word about fun, because everybody here has some kind of a job. And my word is this: you really need to have it, whatever you're doing. Transportation is hard. It moves like the Titanic. We won't have a subway to the sea for 25 years, and nobody can think that far ahead. They just don't want to. But in the meantime, we want to make sure that we're enjoying ourselves to day, and we really feel that if we're enjoying ourselves, that's going to translate to what we put out there. So, it's about poking a little bit of fun at yourself and just reminding people in very simple terms, why Metro is where it is. Our new CEO, who's been in the job for about 2 years, one of his first actions was to institute a dress code. All right. So we thought, okay, well, at least we can give people a cool tie. If you have to wear a tie, let's give them a tie that feels very Metro. Every Valentine's Day, the design studio staff, starting with only 7 people about 10 years ago, climb up and down the stairs with our cell phones and walkie-talkies, and we close doors and turn off lights and turn on lights, and we make a 12-story heart for Los Angeles that's visible from 5 freeways, and we do it all ourselves after hours because we really, truly love Los Angeles. We even made our own Tom's shoes. And the lights really work. And I want to say that if there's anybody in this room who's lucky enough to lead a team of people, you got to kind of put your money where your mouth is and really be willing to have that fun, which means that if you come up with an idea for an ad and the photographer says, we can't hire a model for this, it's got to be you, you will sit for an hour in the makeup chair and put on that ridiculous outfit and be in the ad. And I said I will do it if nobody knows that's me, and then Matt announced it in a big meeting, and there you go. My secret was out, and I couldn't say anything, literally, as you can see. Could not scream in protest. So, I conclude with this, back to that very first photo shoot. The idea is to praise those, give them an idea of the fact that they, in the choice they make, are, superheroes, but do it in a funny kind of a way. And because it is Los Angeles, and we can play with the stereotype a little bit, it doesn't hurt to remind them that they look really good. Thank you for letting me geek out. It's been really, really fun. Enjoy the ride. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh no, that first question. Who's the plant? Come on, somebody's got to say something. No.
Right here.
Oh.
Is it irony or...
No, wait. You've broken the rule, my God, already. I know, but I'm allowed to do that. You're not.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, now.
Is it irony?
Yes, it absolutely is irony.
Or the master plan that you're really opening up the roadways again for rich guys in sports cars who will get hot babes?
I did not talk about the fact that we are doing almost the opposite of that, which is that we, in the next year, will open toll roads in Los Angeles. There are no more freeways to be built. There are no more big, Robert Irwin? No, who's the guy from New York? Robert Moses type, get out of the way, we're not asking kind of things that are going to happen anymore. We are converting 2 of the busiest sections of Freeway in LA to express lanes, also known as toll lanes. And if you want to go fast, you will pay $9, $10, $12, $14 for that trip. Carpools will continue to be free, but they must register and they need to use a transponder, and that is going to be the future of the way our roads will work smarter in Los Angeles. It will be both a source of income, but it will basically give people the choice, because what we really crave, if we are on that freeway, is to be moving. And so the way the express lanes will work, theoretically, and I hope in reality as well, is that you can get in them with your transponder, and you can pay for speed, basically. And carpoolers will have that speed as well. Of course, our own transit vehicles will use it, and everybody else will benefit because that's less cars in their lane. We're putting 60 people on a bus to use the express lane, and they won't be in their own cars. And we're rewarding carpoolers not only with free rides, but a loyalty program where you'll get gas cards and things like that. And then we're saying to that, who'd you call him, the asshole in the Lexus? Was that what you said? Something like that. He can be an asshole and go 45 miles an hour and pay for that privilege.
That's a future I love.
Yeah, we'll see. People aren't happy about it so far, but it's hard. Got to do something.
Will you talk a little bit about the politics of design? Sorry.
No.
There was recently a situation here where a county officials objected to the design of some buses, and there was this sort of public wrangling in the papers. And then when you saw the pictures of the redesigned buses, it had 3 new swooshes to solve the problem.
Right.
And no
Swooshes
one
are so hot.
And no one who wasn't looking at both pictures could tell you how they're different. And so I'm just wondering, what are the things that you did to get your leaders to sort of go along with this and kind of deal with the politics of changing the look?
Well, the first thing is going to sound sort of cheeky, but it's very, very important, which is that we don't show our design to our board. The board is the governing body of Metro. It is made up of only elected officials. It is the most political, divisive, I want mine in my territory, and that means I don't want yours to get the funding that you want kind of a board you can imagine. It always has been. It's made up of the 5 county supervisors in LA, each of whom actually has more power and a bigger budget than the mayor of Los Angeles, the city itself. So you do not go to these people and say, what do you think of this? We did that bus design. We merely reported on it, that it was going to cost slightly more, but that was for safety. And we showed them the finished product and rolled it out. And that's in general what you want to do, is the less people you ask, the better. If you know what you're doing is right or is going to be effective, do it. We have these 3 sort of voting triumvirate for us, but they are all on board. We've all had the Kool-Aid together. And they all have their different factions of communications, but they really understand that this bus is moving and we're not stopping. And if I may be humble on behalf of my crew, we do pretty good work. So if you do good work, it speaks for itself. And we're constantly measuring and analyzing that work in little ways. And how about the biggest way of all, a 2/3 majority vote, on a countywide ballot? It's a lot harder for people to say that we're not heading in the right direction now that each of those supervisors has their own special project with plenty of funding in their own area. The phone doesn't ring quite so often. I don't know if that answers the question. I really mean that you just go. And the last thing you want is to ever bring that kind of design into the sort of public debate sphere, because it becomes rapidly not about design at all, but about, is this important project? Is it my project? How much will it cost? Every politician wants to stand up and say, I'm going to cut spending, right? We don't need to do this. I'm going to cut spending. So you try to forge ahead. But if you have to ask, make sure you know what the answer is going to be, and make sure that you have some real solid backup so that you are, in essence, painting somebody into a corner where there's really only one logical, defensible conclusion. Now, that's not to say that when we design a station or a route or the subway to the sea, all of that goes through rigorous public process, and it is super contentious and doesn't always turn out to be the best or most sensible solution. But as far as marketing goes, we really hold that tight, and we just do it. Anybody else?
Hi.
Hi.
Over here. Over here. To your
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Stage, right? So you talked a lot about the history, and like at the beginning you were kind of picking out work and trying to change things as you could and just trying to stay with the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about the personnel side, because I've seen you went into a team and then over the years you built up. It seems like you have a really good culture now. How purposeful and how you were able to build that team over the years and really get those dedicated people in there in the right places? I never seem to answer them with any. I read this book about this. No.
here's my theory on life. I owe it to my friend John Taylor. You got to be a good time to have a good time, and you got to have a good time to be a good time. And I think that my own personal way of, trying to keep everybody going is to enjoy what I'm doing and to give everybody the chance to enjoy what they're doing. What that means is we're a very level organization. There are lots of natural levels of talent within our group, but everybody gets a crack at most everything. When we're entering a new campaign, anybody can contribute. We have become a place that benefits from putting out good work, which attracts a certain kind of person, and putting out work that is, being seen on a huge canvas, and that attracts another kind of a person. We don't give personal credit to anybody, but we enter every contest we can because it's important that this kind of work gets seen alongside rock posters and, packaging and Sagmeister's this or that, here's some other things that are going on in the design world. And we never credit anybody individually. It's always the Metro Design Studio. Neil used to say we're socialist. It's all for the good of the people, right? We keep things moving. There's never a chance to get bored. Not everybody likes it. We hired a great designer who lasted with us about a year. He'd come from a cool little well-known design firm that was working with Disney and lots of entertainment clients and this and that, and he thought, I want to try this because you guys are doing great work and it's a big canvas, et cetera. He lasted a year and he said, I don't want to work for just one product. I want all that other sizzle as well. And I said, okay. Meanwhile, I'm thinking to myself, the breadth of the work that we're doing for the one product is astounding and never ending. We can invent almost anything we want, find the money and do it, and never have to win a piece of business ever. So there's freedom in that, and there's no, we have budgets and all that, but it's not like that. It's about, we just get to work. And every day there needs to be some laughter. I for myself, I've had a couple of stressful years, and I have 2 kids, and the homework is worse than ever, and I never liked math in the first place, and I have to do it every night. But every day when I come in, I need to be smiling. And if I can't smile, I close the door to my office for a little bit and then emerge again, But that's really what it's about. And also not letting, that sort of negative thing of the bureaucracy and the budgets and all that bring us down. Matt is very good in that way. He says, I don't want you to ever think about money. Don't, I know too much after 10 years. I know what's going to not have funding attached to it and what is, and we won't really be able to put this on TV, and he just says, don't do any of that. Just think about what you're going to do. And that doesn't mean that we don't have people who really wanted the raise every year, which we don't get. And, really wanted to do the thing that the person down the row got to do. There's a lot of that. But you listen, and then you find a way to make sure that the next juicy bit, small or large, you slide it that way on that green sheet. You assign them instead, And you have to balance that with capabilities and speed and, thoroughness and all of that. But we just keep those balls in the air, but we really make sure that we are a good time and that so we can have a good time. And that seems to work pretty well. Most people have been with us for years and years and years because of that, I think. And it really helps when you're doing something that, makes a difference. You can volunteer and make a difference, by the way. You can invent your own project. It doesn't have to be through your company. I don't do any volunteering. I just put my halo on at the end of the day and walk out the door. And, I haven't given to a charity in years. Why bother? But one way or another, find that thing which will make you feel good. You will enjoy your work more. And everybody else will enjoy working with you.
So you've been there 10 years, and
I know.
You do really good work.
And
there's always somebody who thinks they can do it better. Has anybody outside agency ever tried to pitch your business against you?
Every week.
So what's that like?
Every week. I can't tell you what a pleasure it is. Well, my first most wonderful phone call is the one where somebody says, calling from somewhere in every other state in the union, or sometimes I've gotten calls from London or the Middle East, South America. Could you tell us who does your advertising? Who's your ad agency? That's very satisfying. But also, I believe that it's not always good, by the way. It's really easy to leave the crap in Los Angeles and bring you the choice bits, right? And 25,000 projects, there are certainly some that get out the door where I think, oh well, on to the next. But there isn't an ad agency at any price that would know our business better than we. They would approximate the voice we've been steadily putting out there. They would try too hard. It would be too slick. It would be too clever. It wouldn't ring true. It would be condescending. It would be too funny and hurt somebody's feeling. You know, whatever it is, you look at what's happening in that kind of Super Bowl advertising, you know, with some exceptions, it's too much. You know, it needs to be simple. Half the people that ride our system, English is not their first language. So it's all about that clarity. And they're looking for a piece of information that is bare. What stop? Oh, I love that wrestler. What stop do I need to get off at? So we didn't have the money, or certainly we wanted to keep those choice bits for ourselves, and we just kept everything, which means you have to do the report covers and the lifting bits, but you also get to do every new campaign. And it's taxing. I'm working on 5 campaigns right now at once. I wish I had an ad agency sometimes, but it would be too hard to manage. We do have outside vendors, filmmakers, photographers, illustrators, but it's really about just trusting that we know best. And we're building this kind of ongoing history, and therefore we're the right group. So people do pitch the business. There's a lot of money. It meant lots and lots and lots of money, billions literally, to be spread around. But we try to keep most of it for ourselves. Way at the top.
You showed some very important and significant work that was done by interns.
Yeah.
And
I love interns.
This is a 2-part question.
All right.
How did you think it was a risk giving these important jobs to interns? And the second question is, do you pay your interns?
May I take the second question
and
first?
How much do you pay them if you do pay them?
If you do not pay your interns, if your company does not pay your interns, you should hang your head in shame. There is absolutely no excuse for not paying someone to work. If they show up and sit in a chair and you ask them to do something and they do it, they should be remunerated for that. So we pay our interns, not a lot, but we pay them. They get to ride for free. And what's important is, listen, when you're an art center student, or that's a lot of money. That's $9,000 a year that you're not spending. Our best advertisement for our internship program, which pulls from all the schools around LA, Tufts Art Center out there, Otis, but Cal State Los Angeles, Cal State Long Beach has an amazing photography program. All 3 of our full-time photographers are from that program. Is that they get to do that work. They get handed that piece of paper. And I don't make a big deal out of it and say, oh my God, Cindy, if you do not come up with these solutions, you just say, what do you think? What can you do? They already, if they're a good designer, they're already a good designer. They just haven't had the chance, to create as much as you have. And if they're not, they're probably not. And even, a couple years with us isn't going to necessarily work its magic, but they sure get the chance. The first intern that we had in the new studio was a guy named Richard. And he was in his 2nd year at Art Center. He did all of the bus designs, all of that paint scheming, the paint testing, the lettering, all of that stuff. He was the hands. Obviously a lot of oversight, but he did all that. And when he had his show, I don't know if you've been to a grad show at a design program, but at Art Center, they all get a little booth. They're all the same size. They get a space in in their building, and people come and see their work. Half of his space was completely dedicated to Metro and that program and all the things that he did there, and the other half was, design school stuff. It is a very practical program that gives people, first of all, respect, second of all, a paycheck, and third, the chance to do something. And we fired interns, too. If you don't show up, if you're not with us, if you're not dedicated, it's not going to work because we're too busy. But if you show that you can think and understand the sort of oeuvre, it's not that hard to understand. There's a lot of work that we can point to. And you can take that to another level. That take one that I showed for the X Games with the guy with the helmet, I love that. The guy ripped apart, intern, Cal State Long Beach, ripped apart pieces of paper, made that sort of, ransom note lettering with the right typefaces, by the way, that he laid out and laser printed first. It was on brand. The logo was there. It was in the right place, the right size, everything. But he completely turned it around and broke all the rules, and it was one of my favorite pieces because that's what you can do. And all his idea. He turned it in, and he was very nervous, and he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Collect it, we'll print it tomorrow." So that's the way we feel. Everybody's valid. Everybody's valid.
First, you have very nice work here.
Thank you.
But I've learned a lot from we see no mistakes here, and I'm sure you've made some. What have you learned from making mistakes and can share with us?
Don't make them the second time. Fool me once. You need a big team. I have a really fun job, and I get to write a lot of stuff, and I, art direct and sign my name a lot, and I get to come here. My team is there, working. Thank you if you're watching. I think it's too late, but you're the best. But I also read every word. I sign final. I read every word of every long piece. I read every word of the long-range transportation plan. It's that kind. And there were 3 other people that do that too. So first of all, when you are trading in information and you're a public agency and there could potentially be a lawsuit, based on a mistake, you just really slow down and take that care. So just take the time when it's really important to take the time. As far as work that gets out the door that I don't think is so great a mistake, you have to choose your battles because you can't say no. Everything that recruiting flyer for the accounting department is important to them, and therefore, and guess what? They approve the budget. Everybody has some meaning, and if you can't connect the dots in your company and understand how it works, then you shouldn't be in the kind of position that I find myself in where we're trying to please everybody. As far as, sort of subpar work, I'm thankful that there's not that much of it, but I really want to make sure that the big things, don't get out there. And I'm responsible for some of the ones that are my least favorite. What I love about that river is that in 6 weeks, another ad campaign, new set of rail posters, new posters on the side of the bus. We work in these media cycles, and so what goes up comes down. But when you're going to paint vehicles that will last for 10 years, then you really, really work on it to make sure that that's right. You try to minimize that, and you certainly never, ever lay blame, anywhere else. We have had remarkably few. We've never pulled anything off press because we found an error. We have very, very few mistakes with millions and billions of words every year. So we work at it. And you try to keep, you try not to let the chatter outside, bother you. We did a nice ad once that was Go Metro to Flirt, and it was 2 people on a bus that were sort of looking at each other, and we had made a heart out of, in the window out of, what do I want to say? Steam, you are inciting rape, somebody wrote to us. Don't you know that, Metro is one of the most dangerous places a woman can be, and look at you, you're inciting rape with these lecherous, next, So, I guess that was a mistake. We didn't do an ad like that again. But you just keep moving. Anybody else? One more?
I've got a question.
All right.
First of all, welcome to Minneapolis, and
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
I love it here. It's really great. Nice people.
I'm always interested in how people got to where they got to
Mm-hmm.
and why they got there. So could you give us your bio and why and how?
Really? That's all?
Yeah,
really?
all the mechanics of it.
Oh, all right. Everything has been a left turn. That's the best way I can say. I have all these little tropes, like, you know, I like to trot about, but it's true. Born in LA and raised in LA. I never took I took a bus in high school because I followed a girl to the mall and she was taking the bus. And I said, yeah, absolutely, let's go. But that was kind of it. I was like so many people, I didn't think that was for me. So I didn't, and then there was this great sort of, you know, period of time when I got my first car. I'm the living embodiment of why people don't want to go metro, you know. So it wasn't like I was jonesing to, you know, end up in public transportation at an in-house agency. You know, that wasn't a thing. But I worked in, went to UCLA. I majored in communication studies. My first job was at an ad agency, not on the creative side. I was in the media department. But the great thing about a media department and an ad agency, certainly back then, somewhat true now, it's just that ad agencies function differently, is that if a campaign's worth $100 million, the media department spends $99 million. And so you know where that money goes, and you understand how it becomes a successful campaign, and it's about what buy and where and that, you know, channels, things like that. But I was only there for 6 months, and then Hollywood came a-calling, and a person that I knew at UCLA asked if I would be his first employee in a personal management company. So I said yes, because the $5,000 a year pay difference would let me move out of my parents' house. And so that sounded great, and Kim Basinger was one of his clients, and that sounded great, and I did that for 5 years, and it was fun. I was in my early 20s, and I got to go to premieres and, you know, meet beautiful people who were acting very, very badly, and so that was sort of fun, but I realized this is not what I wanted to do. I kind of had an epiphany that the whole entertainment industry runs on fear, and that didn't feel good to me after a while. If I'd been in another area, it might have taken longer for me to realize that, but when you're working with actors who are sorrowfully the most fearful bunch there is, even when they're Jeff Bridges or Kim Basinger, they're even more fearful, you know. Anyway, I quit after about 5 years because I didn't want to do it anymore. And I sold my car, ironically, to buy a wedding ring that I gave to my wife. And I hung out a shingle. I bought a Macintosh computer and a program called Quark Express because a design friend who went to Art Center said, you don't want PageMaker. That's for the hacks. That's for the non-pros. You want Quark Express. I learned Quark Express, which was awful because I didn't even know how to use a Mac. And I sort of taught myself design, and I continued to write, and I built a little business. And then when it was time to get some management experience, I took another left turn and left my little business, which was just giving me a living, but, you know. And I answered an ad in the newspaper, so that's how old I am. And took a job at City of Hope, which is one of the national cancer centers in the country, and took a job running their in-house design group. And that gave me management experience and sort of a trial by fire in that. And that was really hard, but also really rewarding. One of my employees was a witch. She had Wicca tattooed to her arm, and she was a practicing witch. So that's sort of the first management experience that I had, was that sort of thing. But I made it. And then when I realized that I was the best designer in my group rather than the worst one, because as a design manager, you want to be the worst designer. You want everybody else to be that beautiful, perfect design shark that only wants to design and is way better than you. And everybody in my group is. I thought, okay, time now to really go to a sort of a university. And one of our clients was a woman named Kim Bear, who owns a company in LA for 30 years called KBDA, and they were doing our annual report. And I just knew that this was the place. From spending a year with her on the client side with this annual report, I knew that that was where some really, really good design, but much more important to me, some very, very good thinking and management and understanding of communication was happening with Kim and her crew. And I talked myself into a job, not design, I was a writer and a project manager, and it was really hard to sit on my hands and not design, but I did. And I did that for 5 years. And then an email came through at a time when I was kind of thinking, what's next? I'd like to be a creative director, because then I can go back to, shaping design. And an email came across for this new first creative director position at Metro. And since you asked, and so this is the way life is. And if you have a significant other or somebody who really understands you and what you could be, give them the room to run. My wife's a recruiter, so she knows a lot about moving from place to place, job-wise. And I sent her this email that was sort of the forward of this email about the job, and I said, this is not for me, I wouldn't even want to apply, but it's interesting, this is your old colleague, and isn't that interesting? And I never heard back from her, and I thought, did she even get that email? And I came home 2 days later, and she was just getting off the phone, and when you sort of let them finish their conversation, she said, okay, great, Maya, well, he'll see you for breakfast at 9 o'clock at Philippe's, and he's really looking forward to meeting you. And I said, what was that? And she said, you're having breakfast with Maya, and you're going to tell her about you, and she's going to tell you about this job. And then I got the job, which was sort of amazing to me, and that's it. So I really mean it. Left turn, no design degree. It doesn't matter. I love designers. I love educated designers. I just am not one of them. And so there's a place, for everybody. But you got to be ready and act when you see that possibility coming, or have someone else act for you and push you into the left-hand turn lane. That's my career. And who knows what next. 10 years is a long time. Probably 5 years longer than I thought. If anybody has that amazing next job, I would be happy to speak to you after. But I'm very happy right now. So. Thank you again. Appreciate it.